Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about opportunities. So let's get into it. So the question was, hi Frederick, as a software developer, when you have a ton of opportunities like that are coming your way, how do you decide which one is worth your time? Well, I don't think a lot of people can relate to. If you're a junior software developer, you might not be able to relate so much to this. Having a ton of opportunities coming your way. Maybe you do, like, cause that's the thing, right? Being a junior doesn't necessarily mean that you're struggling, but it might be a little bit difficult in the beginning of things. But the way that you can look at it is that when you get into the mid-range to a senior level, you have an almost daily flow of. I think I have between one or two ish. It's the average, one or two emails from various recruiters and tech companies a day, usually. Uh, Depends a little bit on the season and so forth, because they have monitoring systems that help them figure out when it's the appropriate time to connect with people and so forth, usually. But there is, like, I like to tell people, guys, this idea of like that you have a lot of opportunities. The thing that you have as a software developer is you have the opportunity to prove that you should get a job. Like, you don't have to. You will get a lot of people reaching out about you coming and proving to them that you can fix that you can take the code test, etc., etc. But in terms of opportunities and having a lot of choice, the way that I usually decide what's worth my time is based on the role itself. I don't make a lot of I don't join companies. I don't consider joining companies primarily due to the salary. I mean, the salary is something that is becomes a factor later on, but the thing that makes me go, yeah, I'm willing to go through the recruitment process with this specific company has more to do with, okay, what are you doing? What type of specific thing are you gonna have me working with? And that in the early days, as I've said to juniors, I think that the best thing for you is to join a company that gives you a position where you do the boring 9 to 5. Well, it's not boring, but like the boot camp. You can look at that as your boot camp years, where you're now getting basic training, and basic training is building CRUD applications, standard CRUD application. There's a UI, there's like a backend with some business logic, and there is a database. It's the most standard thing that you can possibly imagine, and you should do that until you make that something that is so mainstream and so boring that you've done it so many times that you can basically write stuff in your sleep almost. And once you've been doing that, then you can, in my opinion, get a little bit more niched and specialized usually, because now you have a solid foundation uh, of knowledge, which is the bread and butter, which is going to keep serving you for the rest of your career. I can guarantee you that, because the nature of how web development works is not changing in the next coming, I don't know how many years. The fundamentals are always going to be something that is very useful to you. And for me, on the other hand, who has been on that path for a while, and I've already built so many CRUD applications now that, as I said, the roles that I have now are like I do build them. I still build them, but like it's getting to the point where I've picked up so many tips and tricks for building successful like web applications. Even at the, I mean, for most software developers, they work at they usually design systems for smaller companies and mid-sized companies, and I'm at the level now where I design systems and solutions for like gigantic corporations, where like I align hundreds and hundreds of people on different ways of working and so forth and so forth, or like I'm part of that. So when you get to that, but it's still the same thing, right? I've been doing it for so long that it's not really a challenge anymore. It's just bigger, if that makes sense. To me, it's the same thing. There's really very little difference in terms of excitement for me with building like a small website for like a friend, or designing like a super system for one of the gigantic corporations, because it's the same. I've done all of this and everything between now for long enough that I sort of know all the steps that are necessary to achieve the goals. So when I look for something, it's actually very difficult for me to pick an opportunity, because it's rare that I find that there is a role or an opportunity presented to me that is not something like that, which I already know really well. So the thing that makes me very interested, and the thing that I usually decide to go with, are things where I know that this is a complicated problem, or this is a role which I am not so good at, or this is something where this would be a very nice complement to the sort of work I'm already doing, or like the stuff I already know. Because for me, the thing that matters most is not so much like maximizing salary, it's more about being a more well-rounded, well-developed software developer, right? And so with my current job, that is one of the reasons why I took that job, because it gave me the opportunity to work in a more exciting role than I had been in my previous job. Because in the current job that I have it started out as that my job was like I had a few options that all were interesting in their own way. They had their own perks, like everything from a more interesting stack to at one point I was also interviewing for the government for some like security type of work for the police and so forth, which was very interesting. And then there was this company that I finally settled on, which was like, well, basically I'm going to work on what they call their platform team, where most of what I will do is that I will build the internal tools for all the different teams that work across this company. And that went really well. And now it's gone to the point where I'm not just building the tools for them, I'm also directing and managing sort of like the migration, like the technical migration for this company to like a completely new system. So I suppose that I am an architect in a way as well. I didn't really think I would ever have that title, but here I sort of am now, and we're doing the same sort of thing that I've done 100 times before. So as long as this keeps on being true, it's going to be a pretty good, I think it's a good position. But the next thing that I'm going to look at is, as I said, it's more, okay, so now I've been doing the architect stuff, or I've been doing like, it's really not that different from being a team lead in my opinion. So what would be the next thing? Well, we're going to have to see. But the same thing keeps on being true. The only thing that really matters to me in terms of what's worth my time is this going to be an interesting role to have? And trust me when I say this, guys, the list gets shorter and shorter the longer you work. So what I want you to take away from this is that the way that I see when I have multiple opportunities at my level, at the very least, the thing that I usually look at is, how interesting is this? Is this going to be a fun challenge to work on? And I have my own personal interests here. There are things that I find interesting to work on and things that I don't find so interesting to work on. And for juniors, I usually recommend just start by learning how to build basic CRUD applications if you have the chance, because that's the foundation. And when you get a little bit older and you worked for a while, you will start seeing that there's a million of these opportunities related to just building standard CRUD applications, but now you know it so well that you have a foundation to stand on, if that makes sense, if the economy goes and takes a downturn, or if you need to switch roles or something like that, because now you have that foundation layer of knowledge that is necessary, and it's going to serve you in more advanced roles as well. And then, it's really up to you what you want to do. But for me, personally, it's always down to, is this an interesting problem? Is this going to help me develop more as a software developer than something else? That's usually what it comes down to, at least for me. Have a great day.